Now, Israel and Iran continue to be on the edge, gearing up for any eventuality if Washington's nuclear talks with Tehran do not yield any positive results. Now, the United Nations Atomic Agency, the IAEA, has warned that Iran is stepping up the production of enriched uranium in the thick of its talks with the United States. It says that Iran has increased its stockpile of uranium enriched up to 60% in less than about 4 months. The nuclear watchdog, the IAEA, has said that Iran's cooperation with the agency is less than satisfactory. The Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu has reacted to the IAEA report, saying that the report was a clear warning sign that Iran is totally determined to complete its nuclear weapons program. Now, Iran has responded to these claims, saying that the Islamic Republic has accused the State of Israel of providing unreliable and misleading information to the United Nations' nuclear watchdog to be used in its new report. Now, in the wake of the recent report of an imminent strike on its nuclear facilities, Iran has also issued a notice to air missions for the next 2 days. Tehran has been aggressively increasing the capabilities of its missile systems, ensuring that it has more nuclear-capable weaponry in its arsenal. Recently, Iran has also unveiled a new solid-fuel ballistic missile called the Qasem Bashir, which has a range of about 1,200 kilometers. Now, Tehran had recently unveiled its underground missile city. Its increasing stockpile of weapons having a nuclear payload capacity include the medium-range ballistic missiles such as the Khorram-Sheher, the Shahab-3 and also the Sejil. It also includes intermediate-range missiles such as Imad and Ghadar. Iranian officials have dismissed speculation about an imminent nuclear deal with the United States, emphasizing that any agreement must fully lift the sanctions and allow the country's nuclear program to continue.
The fact that they say we shouldn't enrich uranium is an attempt to impose their dominance over us. Why shouldn't we enrich when international law gives us the right to do so? They tell us not to enrich because they are worried. But should the Iranian people give up their rights just because others are worried? This is unacceptable to the Iranian people because it means accepting the domination of others, whether we need enrichment or not, and we do need it.
Iran's Defense Minister Aziz Nasir-Zadeh has said that Tehran is ready to defend itself in case of any attack. He further added that Iran has no hostility towards neighboring nations, but US bases in the region will be considered as legitimate targets by Tehran. Reports also suggest that the State of Israel has been preparing for many months to launch strikes on Iran's nuclear facilities. And reports say that the US intelligence has gathered information regarding the movement of Israeli troops and air ammunition in the West Asian region. The report further says that Israel has recently conducted air drills and is in fact waiting for the American President Donald Trump's nod to stage an attack on Iran. Now, Israel has even conducted strikes targeting Syria's coastal cities of Latakia and Tartus, saying that it has struck a weapon storage facility that contained missiles that posed a threat to Israeli maritime and navigation rights. Now, according to a Reuters report, Saudi Arabia's Defense Minister Prince Khalid bin Salman held a closed-door meeting in Tehran with Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian and the Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi in April. During the meeting, the Saudi prince reportedly warned Iran that Trump had little patience for drawn-out negotiations and that it would be better to reach a deal with the United States than to face the possibility of an Israeli attack if the talks were to break down. All right, now joining us on the broadcast for more perspective on this, we've got Aaron David Miller, who's a senior fellow at the Carnegie Endowment for International Peace. Mr. Miller, thank you very much indeed for joining us here on WION. And let me in fact start off by asking you this. In your assessment, this latest report by the IAEA, which states that Iran, even during the course of these negotiations with the United States, has stepped up its nuclear enrichment. With that being the case, where do you see this trajectory of the US-Iran nuclear talks are headed to? Can Donald Trump, as he repeatedly has been saying, very optimistically strike a deal with Iran on a nuclear deal?
Yeah, thanks for having me. First of all, the IAEA report couldn't be worse. Iran now has enriched uranium, may have over 300 kilograms. That's enough, what, for 10 nuclear weapons, at least the fissile material for 10 nuclear weapons. And it's estimated that within 2 weeks, Iran could enrich that uranium further to go to 90%, which is weapons grade. They've also refused to comply with the IAEA request to allow them to inspect undeclared nuclear sites in which it was presumed to be research and perhaps even progress with respect to weaponization. As far as the negotiations are concerned, I think you have three clocks that are ticking, all at different speeds. You have the Iranian clock, which I think is best represented in this IAEA report, and that clock is ticking very fast. The Iranians want to demonstrate not only will we demand a continued right to enrich, but if there is no deal, our nuclear program is going to be advanced. The second clock is the Trump administration clock. That clock is ticking faster. Donald Trump, I think, wants a deal, but I don't think he's prepared to wait forever. And finally, the third clock is the Israeli clock. That's ticking the fastest of all. Prime Minister of Israel believes that there will never be a better opportunity to come up with a military response to Iranian nuclear advances, not just with a one-off strike, but probably with a series of strikes that could last up until a week. I think there's still a reasonable possibility that some sort of framework agreement could be reached, but even if that is the case, it is likely to lead to more intensive negotiations to work out the details of a very complex set of arrangements, which have to do with how much Iran can enrich under what circumstances, what does Iran do about its centrifuges, what kinds of inspections are the Iranians now prepared to permit. So I think there's a reasonable chance of success, but when it comes to the U.S.-Iranian relationship, there are no good deals.
Right.
And it's going to take time, and Mr. Trump may not be able to wait that long.
All right. Interesting. Now, Donald Trump says that he wants a deal to happen. He wants the military option to be the last option that is exercised. But the Israelis have been carrying out what are described as these military drills. They're in fact carrying out simulations of what would happen in the case of an Israeli attack on Iran's nuclear facilities. The question that I want to ask you is this. In the wake of this recent IAEA report, do you think Netanyahu would want to go ahead with a unilateral strike on the Iranian nuclear facilities, or will he have to just wait for Donald Trump's nod before he can engage in any kind of a military strike on Iran's nuclear facilities?
I've been around Arab-Israeli issues for more than 20 years, working for administrations from Jimmy Carter to Bush 43. Many of the predictions I've made in the past have been wrong. But I would venture to say that strikes me as almost inconceivable right now that an Israeli prime minister would launch a military strike against Iran when in fact there is still the possibility, maybe even the probability, of an agreement of some kind. The Israelis will need American support, both to enable such a strike and to defend Israel against Iran's retaliation. So I think it's highly unlikely, with one exception, and that is if Israeli intelligence assessments fundamentally disagree with the assessments of the American intelligence community that Iran is closer to weaponization, then I think, regardless of what an American president wanted or didn't, the Israelis would act. But we're not there yet.
All right. Interesting. We'll have to see as to how this plays out. Thank you very much indeed, Mr. Miller, for joining us with that perspective there.
Yeah, thank you for having me.